Welcome to Photographic Therapy with the Houston Camera Exchange. I'm Bernie, the dad you wish you had. Today we have a great guest. We have Raquel Natalicchio. Did I pronounce that?
Close enough. Natalicchio.
No, Natalicchio. Perfect. All right. Absolutely phenomenal photographer, phenomenal person. From LA originally?
Yes.
Yes. And you are also currently with the Houston Chronicle. Nice. I've seen your body of work, and wow, I'm just flabbergasted at just how wonderful it is. Let me read to you some of her awards here: Foundry Workshop, Photo Wings 2022, Missouri Photo Workshop, Mary Clerk Scholarship 2022, IWMF Hostile Environment and First Aid Training 2022. DART Reporting Safety and Crisis Zone Training. Holy crap, you're awesome, man. I don't. The Yoongi Kim Grant recipient 2021, American Photography Open Finalist 2020, Portrait of America Silver Winner 2019, Art House New York's NYC Digital Art Fair Best in Show 2018. All right. So this is going to just be a conversation, right? So what brought you into photography?
I guess, so my parents lived in different countries when I was younger, and I would travel a lot between the two. And because I am an only child, I was oftentimes by myself. And so the disposable cameras were kind of like my way of sharing my experience when I was on my own, of like my story, like, oh, I saw this or I saw that, or moving around. It was kind of my way of communicating my experience. Mm-hmm. And so after a while, they got very expensive because I was blown through, many disposable cameras. Absolutely. That my parents were like, all right, we got to get her like a digital camera at this point.
Sure.
And they got me like a digital video camera, but they noticed I was only taking pictures on it, like snaps. And so little by little, I ended up going to an after-school program with a friend of mine. She was doing photography, and I just tagged along. And as soon as I saw my first photo developed, I was like, oh, like in physical form, like it really blew me away. And then after that, I was just obsessive. Like I was out on the streets all day long. Like the streets were my classroom. I didn't really go to photography school until way later. But I was just out on the streets, just obsessive about like wanting to share all of, the beautiful things I was seeing, the heartfelt things I was seeing. Like, LA has a lot going on, and it's not just Hollywood.
I grew up in Boyle Heights, so yeah, it was weird. That was another dynamic. My brother-in-law, you think, it's like when he grew up, it was a different time. He's a little bit older than me, but he when he was growing up, he was kind of a bad boy, but he had that cholo vibe, but he was Japanese.
Cool.
Japanese growing up in Boyle Heights. That was really weird, but well, photography is a funny thing. Everybody has their own way of coming across, and I'm just looking at your work, and hopefully we can insert some of your work as when we edit this up and put this together. But I love your point of view, man. It's just really awesome, and some of the things that your photography does is it speaks, and I guess that's part of the reporter person in you, I guess. And a lot of people get that whole I want to be a photojournalist vibe, from their photos, but they're not really photojournalists. They kind of just record and walk away. So that leads me to one of the projects that I thought that was interesting was your Borderlands project, and maybe you can tell me a little bit about that.
Of course. Borderlands was really crafted from just my own personal need to understand what was going on at the border and with immigration. And living in Los Angeles, the Tijuana port of entry was the closest one to me. And
Absolutely.
So I was able to drive there, pretty frequently just to see what was going on. And right when Title 42 came out, which was a Trump-era policy, basically blocking anyone from coming in to seek asylum due to the health risks that it could face during the pandemic. But, an encampment started growing there of people that really had nowhere else to go. And so they were just waiting at the gate, essentially, for that to pass or for them to receive some kind of ulterior way to be able to seek asylum.
Right.
But it quickly grew to thousands of people. And I was noticing in the media. Right. And so in the media, I noticed, I'm glad it was being talked about. People were covering, like the just ridiculous sanitation. It was bad. It was really bad down there. But when I got down there, because I wasn't working for a publication at the time, I was very green. I was a baby.
Yeah, that's okay.
I just kind of went out of my own volition, and I would spend almost every other weekend down there just seeing what was going on. Because oftentimes, we get the image or the video or the report, we publish it, and then, it's on to the next thing. News cycles are so quick, they're so fast. And so I wasn't seeing a lot of reporters, unless they were from Mexico, come back and follow up and see what was happening, how things were progressing. And so I just kind of took it upon myself to be there to document and just to get to know the people in the encampment. And they really opened their doors to me. And so my focus was not so much on like the tragic situation, although that's important to talk about.
Right.
For me, what was important to show is that out of this, all of a sudden, people who normally would have probably never spoken to each other, or countries that actually had some racism between them, all of that kind of went away a little bit, and people start to really activate and formulate community. And so, like, the teachers built a little school that they had every day for the kids. People who owned restaurants had a central kitchen, and they were teaching each other how to cook meals from their home countries.
Okay.
And so, like, this whole kind of encampment started to create a community, and they were all very active in making it so. And so for me, it was really interesting to see how through survival, we came together. People came together through the means of survival. And that to me was an important story to tell, because it really humanized the people in that situation. It wasn't just about, the crappy conditions that they were in, or, the government this or the police this, or that. It was just about the people. And it was their whys, like why they're willing to sit through all of this and do and suffer all of this, right? That never really saw it never got published, that work.
But I mean, like I said, that still could be an ongoing project, right? If you want to.
And it is.
And this leads me to my next question, is because this becomes the photography end of it. Can you separate the reporter from the photographer? As far as you personally?
I think a photographer is reporting, always. Because when you step into any scene, like even in this room right here, you're going to pick something in this room to photograph that's not what I would pick, probably. Right? You come with your own unique set of ideas and vision and heart, and so you're going to be attracted to something totally different than me.
Right.
And so just through that, you're choosing something to share, to bring back of information, of being like, hey, look what I saw in this room, ta-da! And that's what that photo is. And so I think we're always wanting to add information and collect data at the end of the day, which is what reporting is.
Right, but when it comes to reporting too, it's also having that, what reporting should be, which is unbiased, correct? It's just reporting. So being able to separate that, because I see people's photography, and I'm a street photographer as well. That's something I like to do. I have a commercial background, but when I see stuff and I feel something about it, and I'm not a photojournalist in any means, I would suck at it. For me to put, my photography will always show my feelings, right? So it tends to lean in that direction. Do you have times where you want to, if you are shooting something for a project, like you're shooting Borderlands, right? And can you pull the camera off your eye and be in the situation and think, maybe this is bringing me somewhere else, that maybe this is giving me another way of looking at it where other people won't understand. I don't know if I'm getting that.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. And it's actually something that a lot of, like, just me and my colleagues just within photojournalism really spend a lot of time talking about like, what are those ethical boundaries between, like, me being a human before I'm a journalist, right? And, like, encountering situations where I feel very emotionally inclined to want to help people and support them in
especially
that
if you
struggle.
share the same culture and speak the same language too, right? So.
Even just recently I was on assignment in New York following a family that I had met at the border that is now going through the immigration system here on this side of the U.S. legally. But there were so many times where, they thought they were going to be sleeping on the street. And it's like, everything in me is like, oh, like, well, I just want to bring you back to my hotel room because I literally have space in there. But, how else do I document the truth of their experience without inputting myself, right? And like, that's what I keep telling myself is like, yes, I'm a human first. And there are moments where like, I don't know, that I have kind of just been like, you know what, I'm going to help this person right now. Like, but for the most part, I really try to keep my own emotions in check. And, I kind of compartmentalize and be like, okay, I'm going to process that later. And right now, my only job and role is to document this situation for what it is so that we can speak to it authentically and honestly later so that people really understand what's going on. Because if I go and I help every single person that's suffering out there, which I want to, trust me, it eats me up at night sometimes that I haven't been able to. But if I did that, then we wouldn't really see the truth of like the situation, right? Of like how dire it is right now.
Absolutely.
So it's one of those it's very situational. Most photojournalists you speak to, like we're calling each other distraught, being like, I couldn't help this person, and it's a lot.
I just couldn't imagine because, like I said, I don't know. Like I said, I don't think I would be able to do your job. I get distraught just by watching the news. So. Oh, by the way, before we go on, all the views expressed in this podcast are mine and the guests on their own. That has nothing to do with the Houston Camera Exchange, which we would like to thank as our sponsor for the day, as is Fujifilm and Rode Mics. Thank you for the stuff, guys. We appreciate it. But I don't know. I have the utmost respect for journalists. Because, like I said, you guys, first of all, you guys get beat on all the time. You guys get beat on left and right. I mean that politically and realistically, right? So, and being able to bring a body of work outside journalism. Okay, let's talk about something more cool. Let's talk about something outside journalism. So, your art stuff. What do you like to shoot when it comes out? Because I saw your wild stuff. That was really, really cool. What else do you like to shoot? I mean, besides that.
I mean, I'm first and foremost like a street photographer. Like the streets were my jam. Like climbing everything, like just
found objects.
Oh yeah, like I love all of that, all the artifacts, like all the abandoned buildings.
Sink.
I love all of that, but also just more so just being in your environment, like really listening to the city and just being there and meeting random people and like like really immersing yourself in your environment. Like that's really fun to me.
Do you ask permission before you shoot people?
It depends.
Yeah.
It depends. I don't always, like the streets are free game. Like, there's a lot of controversy around that, but
there is no, I feel that. I'm the same exact way,
But I will tell you, I don't like stand 2 blocks away and then use a mega zoom to get a portrait of someone. If you're going to get a portrait of someone, I encourage photographers to make the effort to meet that person. Because it'll also inform your portraiture so much more. Like you can learn a little tidbit, even if it's 5 seconds of talking to someone, they might tell you something, or you might hear that they have a quirkiness about them, and it totally shifts how you want to make that photograph of them.
How many photos do you think you would take of one thing before you think, oh, that's right?
It's a feeling. You have to feel that you got it. I've taken 1 photo of someone and it was like the one, and then I've just taken 30 photos of someone and like found one in there. It depends on the interaction, I think. Some people are willing to really give themselves to you and just open up and just show you who they are. It makes my life easy.
Awesome. Well, that leads to my next question. What makes photography noteworthy?
I think photography is noteworthy because it allows us to peer into each other very intimately. Because the way I see the world, like we were saying before, is totally different than how you see the world. And photography is kind of like we like bring it back and to show like, this is what I see, this is what I feel, this is my voice without having to use language. And because of that, I'm able to connect with somebody halfway across the world that doesn't speak my language, but can see and feel my language. Right? And I think that they also are important because they're our collective history. Like the photographs that we make now, the videos, the art, like that is how this time will be remembered, and that is how we will inform the world around us, basically.
How do you feel about people like on Instagram just putting up their stuff just for the sense of people viewing it? I mean, what's your opinion on that?
I mean, my entire Borderlands project was that.
Yeah.
None of it was for
Yeah, but there was something
publication.
behind it too, though. I mean, there was Raquel was behind that because there was a feeling behind that. But do you think some of the stuff that goes on social media that people just put up for likes because they want people to just push that?
Yeah, I mean, not everybody is a visual creative. Like some people
Yeah.
just want to put things out there to share or to talk. And, you know, like at the end of the day, Instagram is a tool like anything else. It's about how we use it, right? And so
Right.
I'm all for it. Like I'm sorry, but I love Instagram. Like a wholly visual platform. I'm like, yes, please. You know what I mean? And if it weren't for that, I would have had really nowhere to share all that work.
Right.
You know, and so I encourage people to follow independent journalists because they're oftentimes posting a lot of stuff that like doesn't make it into the publication a lot of the times.
Well, you know, I feel the exact same way. I look at, well, not exactly. Because sometimes I'll look at a photograph and look at it and says, well, that's not doing anything for me. And people are just posting it. And I see all these, I don't know if these likes are bought or what, or how that works. But all the good stuff, I think, is still unseen, you know. And I think that people should go through Instagram with their own internal filter, thinking, you know, it's like, you know, we have that scroll mentality. No. Oh yeah, but God, I lost my train of thought. Anyways, I come from an immigrant background as well, so I kind of get where that's coming from. And my favorite, we're gonna go back to equipment for a second, but my favorite, I tend to lean more towards the analog because I'm older. I tend to like film. The instant gratification part of it in digital was cool for a while, but you know, once you get good at it, you kind of get over that. You know, you have your shot. So I tend to lean more towards the 35 millimeter angle of view, that lens, because it's the normal perspective with peripheral vision. Sometimes the good part of the photograph is in the corner that you didn't see. You took something here, but ooh, that dog's taking a poop over here. That's kind of cool, right? But what do you like to use? What's in your camera bag?
Literally, it's right there. I typically, just because of the nature of what I do, I need something that can be versatile, like that I can go wide and come in if I need to. So I usually always have a 24 to 70 on me, like always. Like if anything, I was a Nikon. I mean, I am still a Nikon girl.
That's
but
great.
Because I'm at the Houston Chronicle, I'm a Sony girl now. But Nikon was my first love. And I always had, I was a Nikon D800 with a 24 to 70. Like, that was it.
Me
like,
too. I had one for like 6 years, and that's all I did. A great body of my work. Made me a lot of money.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's literally all I had. Like, I would go out, you know, to cover a lot of stuff at the border, and like there'd be people with like the mega zoom lenses, which I was super jealous of. I was like, I want to get across the river too. But you know, just that one also made me I was less distracted by gear, and that's not to say people who have a lot of gear are distracted, but I would get distracted by having a lot of cameras on me. I just like one or maybe two.
Yes, you bring up a great point. That's my favorite thing about everything else. Everybody has these huge camera bags. I mean, I can understand if you're a working pro, right? You shoot weddings and stuff, how you'd have a bag of lenses and all these things. But somebody who likes to actually not just record or report about the world, but to show the vision of the world, you don't need a whole bunch. I tell people it's okay to take pictures with your phone. For some reason, there's a stigma where people, oh, you're an iPhone shooter. I don't care that you're an iPhone shooter. Yeah. What is your photograph saying? People tend to think this idea that a photographer has to be a guy who makes a lot of money doing it for a living. And
even just the idea that a photographer has to be a guy, like that's a whole other
that's
conversation.
And that's changed completely. That's changed completely.
Not really. I'm here to tell you that right now. Like a lot of people assume that I'm the assistant or that like
really.
I've walked into so many sets and they're just like they kind of like brush me to the side or kind of move me around and like never really realizing that I'm the photographer for the set. Or, you know, I've walked into situations and they'll just be like, oh, like, so when's the photographer gonna get here? And I'm like, it's me. And they're like, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting like a girl. And I was like,
well, the funny part is now though, from a commercial standpoint, if you go to WPPI, I believe the membership and like any of the photography, the photography gatherings for commercial photographers, it's like 70% women.
Yeah.
It really is. There's a lot of women, and you're right. And there's not enough. And I'm one of the people who's glad to see it because everybody's point of view matters, and I think the most caring point of view, and the most visceral, tends to come from women, and that's me personally, right? Us guys, we just we're very visual people, but we just shoot what we like. But you guys have a good eye or a good way of recording things you don't like, and I think there should be more of that because it says something, right? And being able to do that is just going to open the eyes of a lot of people that the entire world is not perfect, right? There are things going on, and there's people who bury their head in the sand and they don't want to watch the news, they don't want to do anything else. But there are also people who have some fake sense of everything's okay, and having people like you, it doesn't matter, man or woman, who's going to shoot something they don't like. Part of that is probably the journalist in you as well, right? Is kind of neat. So
thank you.
Is there anything else you would like to say? Oh, that's the other thing too. I know you're originally from LA. How do you like living in Houston?
Oh, I love Houston.
Yeah.
Houston has opened his arms to me for sure. It reminds me a lot of Los Angeles. Like I think it's one of these hidden gem cities that not a lot of people. I didn't really know about it. I had never come here before I moved here for the Houston Chronicle.
Me too.
But there's a lot going on. There's a lot of events and collaboration and art and I just think it's fascinating. I really love this city.
And the food will make you fat.
Oh yeah, no, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Everyone's fed me everywhere I go.
Oh, that's awesome. I feel the same way. I'm a transplant from LA as well, actually from Singapore, but I'm originally from LA. But I feel that, and one of the things I want us to do is I want to make sure that Houston gets onto the platform where people, because everybody talks about New York and LA, but there's very few voices. There's very few photographic voices with Houston attached to it, and
I think that's already changing. Honestly,
that's what I want to see.
People are very willing to collaborate in this city, which I love. I mean, I've only been here for 8 months, and the guys will tell you, I've already hosted 2 photo shows, 2 photography exhibitions that a lot of people came out for, and there's so many other events happening all the time.
Sure.
People are very hungry for it, and they're not waiting around. They're creating the thing that they need.
Well, we're going to push that up. We need to push that up and let the all the United States see that it's not always about New York and LA. Although those places are fine. I love that. Yeah. I grew up there.
Yeah, there's more going on in the country. There's
more going on in the country, and people used to say, "You like West Coast rap or you like East Coast rap?" I said, "I like Gulf Coast rap." Right? So, but for the most part, thank you for coming onto the podcast. Your point of view is awesome. Your body of work is awesome. Hopefully we can put some of Raquel's work up along with this YouTube, and the podcast should be interesting. Let us know if there's anything else you guys want to hear. You want to shout out your socials if you want? If people can get in touch with you?
My socials literally at my name, Raquel Natalicchio. But I also want to shout out an event that's coming up August 27th, which is called Her Vision. And it's specific for women in visual arts. So in response to a lot of women feeling the need to kind of meet each other, network with each other in the visual arts, we are going to be hosting an event in August through the Open Door Gallery. That is the Instagram that you can find all the information, or my own. But this is really in response to a show that I had recently called Women in Photo, which we had over 40 artists that were all female photographers. Which was a response to many people not knowing many female photographers in Houston. So we're getting all the women together to meet each other, work together, collaborate, and connect, and creating a database. So for anyone looking for women in the visual arts, we will have a database.
That is awesome.
That you can search and hire more women in the field.
Awesome. Well, Raquel Natalicchio, thank you for coming on to the podcast and to our YouTube channel here. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, dude, this was so
And
awesome.
shout out to Mikey Lasso for having me on here.
Magic Mike.
Magic Mike.
Anyways, thanks again for being here. It was a pleasure. You're an awesome person to talk to. I know you stop by the store every once in a while, just to say hi and to walk around. This is still a great store.
Yeah.
The number
it's a
one.
good wandering store.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, guys. This is Bernie, the dad you wish you had for Photographic Therapy. Peace. We'll talk to you soon.